Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Vienna from Queen Games. Vienna is designed by Stefan Feld and is part of the Queen Games City Collection, and this particular version is a re-implementation of the game Isla, which I played a very long time ago and could not tell you the differences between the two games, past visual optics and all that. But the basic idea is this is a 2 to 4 player game in which you're trying to do, well, I don't even know how to do it. There's a little bit of area control, there's a little bit of contract fulfillment, a little bit of upgrading, some card play, there's a bunch of things happening in this game, but there are two modes, a basic mode and an advanced mode. I'm going to basically focus on what the basic mode does and then tell you what the advanced mode differences are. But the general idea is on your turn you're going to gather 3 cards. You're going to gather 3 cards over here, you're going to have your own personal player board over here, and you're going to take those 3 cards, look at them, and assign them to 1, 2, and 4 on your player board. Not 3 because 3 is locked in, that's the main action you'll take every turn, but 1, 2, and 4, the cards you play, will have an effect in the, well, sequence. Let's go through it. So let's go ahead, without focusing too much on this, I'll go ahead and I'll place, this down in 1, let's say, for example, and then this one is going to go over, I don't know, let's put this one over here, which actually works out nicely, and then this one over here. Now, these are all going to go on your player board, and they are going to define what things happen in the game, because once all players have done this, face down generally, you're going to reveal your cards. You're going to take the first card you placed and place it under one of your slots on your player board, which you start with 3. In the basic game, you'll only ever have 3, and when you're going to put this down, creating an ongoing ability for your tableau. Now, once you have 3 abilities, your 4th one has to kick something else out. And yes, you do have to kick something out. You cannot hold on to this set of abilities you like. You have to always put something new in play, ejecting one previously placed ability. The second card you do is going to give you a resource, specifically a bribe. In this case, we're going to go ahead and take an orange bribe from the supply over here. I have a nice mess of tokens over here. You can make it all nice and organized with some nice visuals over here, but I just have it dumped on the table. I'll take that bribe because that's what we get in stage 2. Now again, keep in mind, this could have been the ability in stage 1, and this could have given me a purple bribe in stage 2. Where you place the card matters. Each one has sections of what it's doing. But in this case, I'm getting a bribe, and because I have the ability that when I get an orange bribe, I will get another bribe. So I'm incentivized to gather orange bribes right now because it will let me get 2 bribes at a time thanks to this ability I just placed. This card will now go away into the discard, and then we go to step 3 over here, which is where we place an agent on the board. This is what you need those bribes for. Ultimately in the game, you're going to be placing agents on the board to score points by gathering various resource tokens in the game, these various espionage tokens, that will score at variable amounts depending on the end game. We'll talk more about that. Let's just walk you through this. I'll take one of my agents over here. I'm going to place it down on a spot on the board. Now, you're going to start thinking with a bunch of bribes, but for the sake of this example, I'll actually use the 2 bribes I just got. So I'm going to use those 2 bribes, and I'm going to take these and pay them back to the reserve to go down into any one spot that has orange bribes as its cost, because I'm paying orange bribes. The cost is always going to be 2 bribes. The color of bribes you pay are equal to the region you're going to, and for whatever purposes, I'll start off going, over here. There we are. We placed over there. We now have a placement on this spot over here. Although maybe I should actually look at this over here, because if we have an orange bribe that has a key spot, orange with a key, we don't have orange with a key over here. No, it does not look like there's an orange with a key at the moment. You see these little symbols over here? These symbols, I have a mission that will want those, although that's part of the advanced game, so we'll talk more about that later. But either way, I'll stick with my initial placement. My agent is out. Why do I want my agent out? The reason you want your agents out is because once your agents surround a spot, so for example, if I go ahead and I have an agent over here, and I have an agent over here, I would then take this token if I were the first person to surround that spot with those agents. You can always see each token always has the number of spots. The number of points over here is the number of spots you need to surround. I'll get 3 points for this agent over here, marking up on the point track. I'll get 3 points for this token, but also I will have this token, which is relevant because depending on where this is at the end of the game, you'll get anywhere between 0 to 6 points. If I move this over here to show you the full board, you'll see that you get 0 to 6 points depending on how far advanced these tokens are along the board. So you're trying to grab certain clue tokens while also making sure those clue tokens advance on the board to score you more points. And that's going to make your next placements a little easier. Now towards this token, I already have 2 agents. If I can put 2 more agents here, I'll already be able to take this token because you're starting to create setups and chains of agents on the board. So that's kind of the main principle over there. Step 1, place a card that will give you an ongoing ability. Step 2, earn bribes because you're going to need those to go to places. Step 3, place an agent or take 2 bribes of any one color. That is an option. Sometimes you'll need to do that if you don't have a bribe engine up and running. If you don't have either discounts or things that will give you tokens, getting 1 bribe a turn is not enough to pay for a placement that requires 2 bribes a turn, so you might occasionally have those dead turns if you don't have an engine that rewards you for it. And then step 4, the last thing you do is you look at your last card and you advance that token. In this case, I would advance this much over there, and you'd also get points for every color of that you already have. So during the game, whenever I advance red right now, I'll already start getting points for advancing red, in addition to the endgame points I'll get by making red worth more. So it really is in your best interest to lean into certain camps, certain colors, to be able to move those up as fast as possible, although you are limited by the actual cards you have. That's the general idea of the game. That's the general idea. You're placing cards out. You're going to go ahead and try to get as many of the tokens as possible. You're trying to create a network of agents. You have a limited number of agents, so eventually you'll have to start moving agents instead of placing new ones, which means you're constantly dealing with a little puzzle of a limited economy, not enough bribes, trying to find the right abilities, trying to figure out all the stuff you need to be able to drive up the points and to be eventually trigger endgame and score as many points as possible for the various tokens that you have. That's the base game of Vienna. The advanced mode adds a few things. First of all, it adds a bunch of new cards to the deck over here, so you'll have more of those. It adds money and missions. So over here we now have missions you'll start with a starter mission, you'll be able to take the easier missions and the harder missions. Whenever you take a mission, you'll get an extra money, and you take a mission by matching the type of the color region. So if I went to this region over here, I could take this mission because it has that flag. Once I cash these in, once I have these various bribes in my supply, I can go ahead and fill this mission if I go to another bit of space over there and get the points or money shown on the mission, depending on level A, the level B missions over here, getting the points or money for those missions whenever you go on the board. So now that's a new reason to care about different things, different symbols on the board, different regions on the board, different building types. You're going to try to get more of those things in play because of these missions that are going to drive your actions forward. You also have a whole new set of upgrades. You have a whole upgrade market over here where you can buy extra meeples over here, more agents to give you more flexibility, but you can only do them and this part I don't have set up over here, but you basically have a little track where you're going to have different icons on this track, and as this moves along the board, and this guy moves whenever you cross a threshold, but as he moves along the board, and he's the turn end determiner basically, you're going to also have the ability to buy upgrades either from pure meeples over here, or various upgrade tiles that will go into your tableau, giving you additional benefits, although you want to find ideally the right color over here, giving you different benefits from extra money for completing missions, to giving you ways to cash in points and turn that points into ways to cash in money, turning that money into points. You have a bunch of upgrades you can get. You also get an additional board over here, which will give you a new place to be able to have a fourth ability ongoing as you play through the game. And so that's basically what the enhanced game adds. It adds missions, which means the board matters a bit more, and it adds tableau upgrades as well as a whole new deck of cards and abilities to be added to your game in Vienna. That's basically how you play the game, which means it's time for the review, starting off with ease of play. The ease of play overall is pretty straightforward. I don't find Vienna to be an overly complicated game, with the main caveat being that I do find learning the basic game, I guess the structure of the rules, learning the basic game and then learning the advanced game, is almost a little hard to grasp. The advanced game is not that hard to pick up, but learning the basic game and having to interweave the advanced game rules into the basic game, slightly tedious, but not the end of the world. I think if you walk into this straight learning the advanced game, it's not a very hard game. I think learning the two separate games is it's a good way of getting people in the game. It's a good way of making Vienna accessible to people who don't want that extra level of strategy, but not the easiest one to, again, not the hardest either, but a little more work to weave those two games together in your head. Game time generally comes in around that hour mark. It can go faster with smaller player counts. It can go faster with players who are moving pretty quickly, but that's basically where this one lies. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which is in general the main compelling aspect about Vienna is that the compelling card play sequence. The idea that every turn you're drawing 3 cards, and there are ways to draw more cards, the upgrades you can have, they'll give you more cards, but drawing 3 cards and trying to figure out which abilities are going to work for you, which ones are going to give you the right token, and which one's going to advance the tracker, as you try to put together and build a satisfying combination of abilities in your tableau that will all play off one another well to be able to drive your engine forward. And it gets very satisfying very quickly. Whether you're getting a ton of points for going on areas where other spies already are, because if you're there already, they already have a heads up, they're more likely to get tokens, so you're kind of investing in the idea that you can still make a payoff while being where someone else is. Getting new types of tokens, you can get 5 points over here for getting a type of token that you don't have yet. This can be a very strong early game card that can give you a chunk of points in the beginning of the game, although late game becomes a great card to proxy and move out. Building and iterating upon your combination of abilities is one of the main compelling aspects that makes Vienna interesting to play through, as opposed to just a pure placement puzzle. It's a lot more about, okay, here's the puzzle, and here's all the rules we're going to have that break that puzzle. Here's the discount we're going to get for going to American locations. Here's the benefit we're going to get to going towards purple cool locations. The combination of such means that when I go here now, I'm going to get a bunch of points and a discount, while also possibly getting extra benefits for X, Y, and Z. You have different abilities strategies in play, and you have the ability to upgrade your tableau as well. Getting more agents, which is more flexibility. Getting ability tiles, which gives you more ways to do different things. Draw more cards, get more points, get more money, things like that. Getting a full extra board so you can have 4 abilities. Easily my favorite upgrade, not always the best upgrade, but easily my favorite upgrade in the game. And the advanced game and basic mode distinction between those two means this is a game you could play with people who want a little lighter of an experience without too much rules overhead, but you can just as easily play it with people who want a bit more of an experience, a bit more of an immersive experience, which is going to give you more going on as far as the level of strategy, because you have to be mindful of the missions, be mindful of the upgrades, while playing through a game that is almost as accessible as the base game. So a lot of things going on, and you always want to do more. You always want to do more in the game because your spies always feel constricted. There's always those upgrades you want. There's always more cards you want. Everything in the game leaves you wanting to do more in this game as you try to vie for all the pathways forward to get points and to compete with other players on a map of limited resources, limited locations, while gathering the right clues and driving endgame appropriately, plus the small aspect of the stock-taking element. There's a bit of a stock-taking element where you want to pay attention to the other players. If you have a bunch of red clue tokens, well, you're going to help me drive up the red track. And so you want to be mindful of that as you play as well. There's just a lot to consider in a fairly easy and straightforward accessible game. As far as things I don't like in the game, first of all, I do not like the board. I think that the game in general, this board looks very messy very quickly, and it's very hard to get a good sense of where everything is. And the worst part is it doesn't even get better with time because there are flags that you put on the board to make the game different every time, to make the board state a little different and not the same puzzle. And I highly recommend using those flags. I think it makes the game far more interesting, but it does mean that you don't immediately remember every single location. It does get a little better with time, but trying to find the combination of I need the purple spot that has that little wax symbol in that location, it sometimes takes a little bit of time to hunt around the board visually, finding a spot that meets the various upgrades you have in play. It's a little tedious and a little messy visually as far as the board goes. I do think it is an upgrade over the original. The original Isla was not a great looking board either, but it's just different. It's a different board, and it's still not the easiest to see, to absorb, to pick everything up going on. Also, the game can be hard to pursue a strategy for too long. Now, this is intentional to a degree, but it means you can't just lock in on one thing you're good at and then just pursue that, because those spots on the board are going to get snatched up pretty quickly, and you have to constantly pivot and adjust. But it does mean that sometimes you have a really good combo, a really satisfying combo of abilities that work really well, but it worked really well for 4 turns, and now it's time to move on. Or even worse, you have a great combo and a stupid ability that you have to replace one of your great abilities that works together, and that has to happen in the game. Those are minorly frustrating moments that I both appreciate the game design that goes behind them, while also taking away from some of the cool things I'm trying to do in the game. Lastly, I'll say that missions can feel very luck-driven. The missions, where they come out, how they play into your strategy, the limited ways to get them and cash in on them, they really force you into certain lanes of what you try to pursue, but they also do feel a little luck-driven as far as how well they worked with what you were trying to get done or not. When they came out, I've had really solid missions come out that were very easy for someone else to score 15 points on something they already had just off the gate. Off the bat is the word I'm looking for. But other times you get a mission that just gives you 6 points and you still have to struggle to get your hands on it. The missions can feel luck-driven and otherwise more deterministic game. Don't get me wrong, the cards coming out are arguably luck as well, but I think there's more agency around maneuvering around that luck, because the missions sometimes just feel like you're stuck with what you're stuck with. As far as I can see others not liking, one thing that's present in the game I don't really talk about, especially in the advanced game, is there can happen moments in the advanced game where your characters are booted off the board if you can't pay for their upkeep. This is only an element in the advanced game, it's not in the basic game, but if you don't plan around that, it's frustrating to have 4 or 5 agents on the board and then they all bump off. You can't pay for them, they go off. You didn't plan around having your money at the right time in the right situation. That is definitely something you want to be very mindful to guide players on the game and help them, avoid that happening, or at least if it happens, it should be with intent and strategy as opposed to just, oh, whoops, I forgot that was a thing. But that can certainly be a frustrating kind of feed the people moment in the games. And also, dead turns in the game can be unsatisfying. You have that aspect in the game where sometimes you have to take 2 bribes because you don't have the economy to pay for your placements. And while that works as a structure, again, these things all work, they're just something frustrating. It works as a structure to incentivize you to build combos that don't just focus on points, but focus on economy. But nonetheless, having a dead turn where you're like, and I take 2 bribes, is just a less satisfying, fun moment to go through. As far as final thoughts on Vienna, I overall enjoy Vienna. I like Stefan Feld's work in general. Most, if not all, of the games of his that I've played, I've enjoyed to one extent or another, and that's certainly true for Vienna as well. The satisfying card combination plays very enjoyable to go through. The 2 versions of the game makes the game easy to approach from different ways, and it's just an overall fairly fast-playing game that lets you do a lot in a fairly short time. To me, though, there's still aspects where the lighter game, I think, is a little lighter on the strategy than I'd like, and the heavier game has a lot of board looking around that almost feels like that extra level of strategy comes at the cost of immediate absorption absorption of everything. For me, ultimately, this is a very good game, but not necessarily one of my favorite Stefan Feld games. This to me is a 3.5 out of 5. I enjoy this one. I like it. I am holding on to it for now because I do have a soft spot for Stefan Feld, but if I had to guess, I would say this is one that won't last the lengths of time in my collection. He has too many amazing games for that. But for right now, I'm still enjoying it enough that I still want to keep playing it and try more strategies and see more cards and try more upgrade combinations. It is a fun experience. In any case, as far as other game recommendations, first of all, if you're looking for another Stefan Feld game that has a lot of card play, but one that I think is arguably more satisfying, Bruges, which then became Hamburg in the City Collection, is one that I think is absolutely incredible, one of my favorite Stefan Feld games, and has excellent card play going on. And if you're looking for a game that does a lot more as far as the board setup and distribution and all the things you need to navigate on this over here, then I highly recommend taking a look at Brass Birmingham. It's going to be a next level, it's going to be a level up in terms of your game complexity, but very rewarding game to experience and dive into. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.